is going on? Welcome to this week's episode of the 1 Second of Strength podcast. Wherever you are, I'm grateful you're here, grateful you're listening. Today, we're going to talk about something that I think has a lot of people really struggling with right now. And what it really is, it's about feeling tired. It's about burnout. It's about feeling exhausted. And what I'm not going to talk about today is like you need to get more sleep, which you do. You need to eat right. You need to do like all those things, like check these boxes that help our body function in a really good way. But what I think that a lot of people are feeling today, and if you are feeling this, you can send me a note on Instagram at Real Tanner Clark. But I think what a lot of people are feeling today is just exhausted. We're stressed out, and it like life feels really overwhelming. And burnout is really that, right? It's when you are emotionally exhausted, when you become desensitized. It's when you've been doing all you can and it still feels like it's not enough, right? And then there's other things, and if you're a parent, you've got family responsibilities. Moms, you have so much going on in your plate. And not to mention, like, hey, we've got all these stresses going on. We feel burned out. We've got these personal things that we might be pursuing. But then on top of that, what's for dinner tonight? On top of that, what, are the kids getting for school? We've got to buy back to school clothes. We've got to buy, like there's so many things that are going on. And it leaves us drained and depleted. And it leaves us like in this state of constant blah, and I think if you're feeling this, or if you don't know if you're feeling this, it's like when you wake up in the morning and you're already tired, and it's not because you didn't get enough sleep. You wake up in the morning and you're already tired because you have to go do it again, because you feel drained, because you don't feel excited, because the financial stresses of the world, because of the stresses on the family, because of maybe your kids are struggling with something, or if you're a teenager, maybe like you're walking into school and school is exhausting, schoolwork, and maybe there's kids who are being unkind, or there's athletics and there's pressures and all these things. There's so much going on. And we feel this strain in our mind. We still feel this strain in our body, and our body reacts in a way that says, you're tired, and sleep's not going to help, because we've got to help it in other ways. And so if you think about it, there's a couple of different ways of like exhaustion, of feeling tired. The first one is mental fatigue. This is when our brain is constantly working, right? We are going, 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 going. One of the things I struggle with personally is I always have way too many tabs open on my computer. My computer's right here. Like, it is gross how many tabs. And it's because I'm like trying to multitask all of these things. But what's really happening is my brain is going, hey, focus on this. And then I see something else and I'm like, focus on this, focus on this. And I've got personal things in my life that all of a sudden I'm trying to focus on all the things at once. And at the end of this, I'm going to give you a couple of tips that are really going to help you overcome stress and really kind of like dial back what's going on so you can accurately and effectively move forward. And so, but this mental fatigue, we've got so many tabs open in our brain that we start feeling really, really exhausted. So that's the first type of, indicator or thing that is really leading to this exhaustion. The second thing is emotionally, right? We're emotionally exhausted. We have so much that goes on from day to day to day to day. And one of the biggest things that makes us really emotionally exhausted is the people in our life. And are the people in your life draining you, or the people in your life, are they helping you through, right? And I think one thing that struggles, and I've tended to struggle with this in my life, is like sometimes I don't have anyone in my life, right? It's not that somebody drains me or somebody doesn't drain me, but as we get going, and I think a lot of dads struggle with this, is like, well, I don't have very many friends. I just have a lot of acquaintances. I have people that I work with. I have people that I connect with, people that I really like and really enjoy. But it's not necessarily people that are, that are giving me more, right? Or that I can go and fill my battery up or recharge or whatever. So think about the people that you are with in your life, and are those people, are they draining you? Are they helping you? And sometimes it's tough because we have to show up for people, but at the same time we have to be in a place where we allow people to show up for us. And if people are draining you, we've got to take a break from those people. But if people are helping you, those are the people we probably want to lean into a little bit more. But I think we've all been in these situations where it's like, somebody reaches out, or somebody says, hey, can we, let's go to dinner or whatever, and you're just like, oh my gosh, that sounds so exhausting. I can't even imagine going to dinner with these people right now or this person or whatever it is, right? Because you know it's going to drain you. I used to work at a job where I knew every day the manager that I worked with, she was very passive aggressive towards me. And I knew that every day I was just walking into a beating. I was walking into this place that was going to drain me by the end of the day. And it was like 20 minutes there, draining me all day, and then 20 minutes back. And it was really exhausting. And what helped is I had to leave. I had to go find a new place that I could be fulfilled both mentally, emotionally, spiritually, because in the moment it wasn't doing me any good. And so think about where you're at. And I think what's crazy is some people are too afraid to go and do the thing that they want to do in their life, right? And instead we feel we're just like, because of comfort, I'm going to go back to this job. I'm going to go back to this thing. I'm going to stay in this same place. And I'm just going to stay there because it's easier, even though it drains me, even though it wears me out. And like, maybe it'll get better. And we keep hoping, 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 hoping. And I had this thought this morning that, and maybe it's a different podcast episode, but I had this thought this morning where you're never going to be ready to make the jump or make the leap that you need to make in your life. You're never going to be ready, but I would much rather build the plane while I'm flying instead of sit in the hangar and wondering what it's like to be free. I would rather build the plane while I'm flying, know I'm pursuing my goals, my dreams, my ambitions, the things that are going to fill my cup, rather than sit in the hangar with an airplane that never takes off, wondering what it's like to fly and wondering what it's like to be free. And so today, think about that. If you are emotionally exhausted because of the work or the people that you're hanging out with, it might be time to spread your wings and fly a little bit, because if you continue to do the same thing, continue to go to the same places, continue to circle yourself with the same people, you're never really going to separate yourself from the thing that is keeping you drained emotionally. So it's a really big thing. Then the last thing is spiritual alignment, and sometimes we're spiritually exhausted. And I think that goes a little bit with work, but we are not in alignment with our passions, our goals, our dreams, and what we want to accomplish. I've been thinking about this a lot recently, where like I love speaking, I love being on stage and helping teenagers and parents and people become the best version of themselves, and it fills my cup to do that. What I don't love is sending invoices to people. What I don't love is having to like call people on the phone and like do the sales side of what I do, right? That is emotionally draining to me, but it's also spiritually draining to me, because it is not doing the things that I want to do and giving to the world what I feel like I can give. So we've got to come to alignment with what we can do. But all of these things, when we're really in this space of like exhaustion, what it really boils down to is all those things: emotional, spiritual, and mental exhaustion. All of it leads to stress. And we've got these stress indicators in our lives. And our brain is wired to protect ourselves from stress. And so in those moments, we are feeling, and we call it the stress cycle, right? Where you start to feel this stress, and then your brain goes into fight or flight. And we've got to regulate and overcome and basically get through the stress cycle so that we can get back to regulate our mind, regulate our body, so that we can move forward. And what happens, there's a 6-step process. I'm not going to go into it much, but like, you perceive a threat, you start to feel the stress, your stress response is activated, and then we've got to take actions against the stresses. But a lot of times what we do is we retreat, right? So it's fight, flight, or freeze. And instead of like fighting through it and getting through it, a lot of times we retreat. And when we retreat from the stresses that are in our lives, we're not actually overcoming them. We're not actually building resilience against them. All we're doing is deferring the pain until later. And I think in some senses it's okay, right? We've got to rest so that we can move forward. But the truth is, to get through the cycle of stress, that is how you actually rest from the stress that you're feeling. And so we've got to deactivate the stress response. I'll give you a couple of tips on how to do that, so that you can then rest and recover, and then go about your day, right? And it's this quick process that we've got to get through so you can do that. And there's really 7 things, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these, but 7 things you can do to overcome, like to get through that stress, to really cope with it. The first one is The first one is physical movement. We've got to physically move our bodies. And so that could just be like, hey, stand up and walk to the other room and walk back. It could be do 15 push-ups. Like we're not always in a place where we can go exercise for an hour or whatever. That's not the stress response that we're really looking for. What we're really looking for is a shake-up, a breakup, right? That's what I call your 1 second of strength. You have the power in 1 second to do something different in that emotion, right? So when our brain is in fight or flight and we are emotional in that sense, that's when your 1 second of strength steps into stand up, do something different, stand up, make a change. And you can do any of these 7 things in that moment, right? So physically stand up, move your body, 10 jumping jacks, whatever, walk to the other side of the room, something simple so that you can get back to it. The second one is breathing. Deep breaths in, deep breaths out. Deep breaths in, and I'm not saying that breathing is the answer to all your problems, but it does help. Find someone to connect with, a positive person that you can connect with. Number 4, laugh about something, right? And I don't want you to just go to your phone and start scrolling social media, because that is not really the answer, but I do want you to laugh about something. The 6th one is do something creative, right? Get your brain working, get your brain operating. And sometimes the 7th one, I guess the 6th one is we just need to cry it out. Sometimes we just need to cry it out because we need to release those emotions in that way. And so there's a couple of really quick things you can do there. But what I want you to focus on is this. I think that there's a couple of key things you can do in the moment of stress, in the moment of overwhelm, that can really help you overcome. What I call it is, I want you to cope, scope, nope, go. Okay? So the first thing is, I want you to cope. So I have to recognize that you're in this state. Recognize, is it mental? Is it spiritual? Is it emotional? What is it that's really causing this, right? So that we can cope with it. So the first thing is cope. And I want you to be really aware, and that can be also, okay, let me stand up. Let me go through those 6 things, right? Let me stand up. Let me breathe for a minute. Let me do these. So these are coping mechanisms with the stress that is in the moment trying to take over your brain and keep you from moving forward, right? Because fight or flight, it's going to retreat back in. So I want you to first cope. The second thing is I want you to scope, which means I want you to focus. What is the scope that you need to be working on, that you need to be focusing on? Maybe it's at work, maybe it's at school, whatever it is. But really what I want you to come down to, and Gary Keller talks about this in his book, The One Thing, is I want you to focus on the one thing. What is the one thing that you need to be doing right now? That's what I want you to focus on. So cope, breathe, move, do those things. Second, scope, refocus. What is one thing that you need to work on? Because if we're feeling mental exhaustion, it's because all these tabs are open and we're being pulled millions of different directions. And you might be thinking about dinner, and you might be thinking about, back to school, and you might be thinking of all those things, but there's really only one thing you can think about and do in the moment. So what is the one thing? That's the scope. The third thing is I want you to do nope, which is say nope to everything else that is on your plate. Close those tabs, close those browsers, just nope. Say nope to everything else, because it's going to continue to mentally exhaust you and pull at you if you don't break away from the things that are keeping you stuck in the place that you're at. So cope, then scope, refocus, then nope, say no to everything else, then go. That's when you move forward. That's when you really start moving forward and to get to where you want to go. And then celebrate that you're back on that path, that you're back moving forward, doing those little things that you can do. Because burnout has the power to really debilitate where you're at and where you're going and who you're trying to become. And I get it. And if you're listening to this podcast, you're doing it because you want to be better, you want to grow, you want to, you're in that state of life. And if you're feeling burnout, I get it, because you are somebody who really wants to move your life forward. But we have to learn to regulate that stress so that we can start to move forward to really accomplish what we want to accomplish. And this doesn't matter if you're a teenager and you've got short-term goals, or your, sports goals or music goals or whatever it is, like these short-term things. It doesn't matter if you are a teenager or you are a young adult in college and, moving towards your degree or graduating or getting your first job, or if you've been you're in your midlife crisis and you're starting to move forward in a new direction. It doesn't matter. What we have to do is we've got to cope with the stresses that we're feeling in the moment. Recognize them, be aware. Awareness is the key to growth. Number two, scope, focus. What is the one thing that you need to focus on? Say nope to everything else and then go. So I hope this helps you today. Share this with one person. I don't know. I don't know who listens to these episodes. I hope that it helps you. If it helps you, leave a rating, leave a review. Tag me on Instagram in your Instagram stories. Take a screenshot of this episode. Tag me on Instagram. I'll reshare it. And at the end of the day, the only way we can help more people is by sharing this episode with one other person. So I hope it helps you. And I'll leave you the same way I always leave you. Go find your 1 second of strength and be happy.